Hello, I'm Joseph Dillard. IDL Interviewing is fun, powerful, and intimate. As a result, interviewing others can be extremely valuable, meaningful, and rewarding, but at the same time, problematic. This is because fun, power, and intimacy don't always go together. Fun can often mean an escape from intimacy. Power can be manipulative and also an escape from honesty and intimacy. Intimacy itself can be threatening. Both intimacy and power can undermine our sense of personal control over our lives. What looks fun at the beginning can turn into something that is dead serious. The reason is that if intimacy and trust have not already been established, the interviewed subject may easily feel embarrassed, vulnerable, or manipulated when they find that they have disclosed far more about themselves than they themselves wanted to look at. People often intuit this about dreams and life issues. Control issues come up. They may think some version of, uh-oh, I may disclose too much about myself. I may embarrass myself. I may tell others information they can use against me or to manipulate me. I may end up having to face things about myself I don't want to look at. The best approach to introducing others to IDL interviewing changes with the type of person and social role you and the other person have established. The general rule of thumb is that it is easiest to introduce IDL interviewing to those with whom you have already established a mutual, respectful, and trusting relationship. My suggestion is to identify those people in your life and share interviewing with them first. Also, ask yourself, is this a person I feel comfortable interviewing me? If not, don't interview them. Therapists and those who gather for an IDL salon or special will have the easiest time of it because clients and students base the relationship on intimacy and self-disclosure or prior interest already. So their expectational set is in line with the amount of self-disclosure that is likely to happen in the course of the interview. For therapists, the introduction might be something like, what are 3 life issues that are coming up for you now in your life? Do you have a dream or nightmare? With these questions, you are already into the interviewing protocol. No explanation at the front end is needed. However, even subjects who have very positive initial interviewing experiences will make wrong assumptions about the process and how and why it works. I know because I did for years, and I created it. That's where directing the curious to appropriate videos in this video curricula will be helpful. Grandparents and people who are in similar roles to young people will probably be the second most likely group to ease into interviews with others without too much explanation. That is because children and young people don't require much explanation. They are not as armored and are naturally close to fantasy and imagination. They are more likely to have a positive, trusting relationship with grandparents or people in similar roles, perhaps aunts or uncles or older neighbors. Parents who have established trusting relationships with their children will also have success just diving into an interview with them. The reason why parents are not always the best fit for mutual interviews is with their children is because a lot of parents are driven by their need to protect their child, to be a good parent, to maintain control as a parent, to teach their children good from bad, to please their elders, and to maintain in control at all times. All of these well-meaning impulses and motivations smother and distort the interviewing process. They create expectations that get in the way of giving permission for the child to be heard in the perspective of a nightmare monster, some fear, self-doubt, or socially unacceptable experience. What happens when what a child reveals clashes with what is true or permissible to a parent or guardian? Also, how comfortable is a parent going to be with being interviewed by their child? Any parent can be taught how to deal with such situations, but this is an example of why and how parent-child interviews can be problematic. However, if parents are willing to meet this issue head-on by setting up regular family meetings in which a different family member is the interviewer and interviewed on each occasion, the superficiality of social role relationships melts away very quickly. In this regard, IDL family interviewing is a very effective way to create intimate and trusting familial relationships. I write about this in Ending Nightmares for Good and at integraldeeplistening.com in the section on dreaming healthy families. This is the acid test for those parents who are sure they have established an intimate relation with their child. If a parent is not comfortable exchanging interviews, don't offer one. If you are a therapist, grandparent, CEO, or other authority figure and are not comfortable being interviewed by anyone you are interviewing, don't go there. The power disjunct based on role identification, such as therapist-patient, parent-child, employer-employee, will sabotage the interviewing process. More superficial and role-determined relationships are most likely to bring up questions about how to introduce the IDL interviewing process. There are also those that will argue that IDL is too intimate or powerful to be used by non-therapists. This assumption is reflective of a lack of confidence in the ability of people to build intimate and trusting relationships. It doubts others' ability to handle truth and power and smacks of terse protection. Stay away from those who are strongly identified with some social role until you have interviewed a number of people with whom you have already established an intimate relationship. The exception is group interviews. Strangely, impersonal settings also do not require much prior information. For example, group interviews where there is a sense of protection through both anonymity and where everyone can feel that they are merely one more member of the herd work well, such as at integral salons. This is the format to use with employees, club members, or those who gather for an IDL salon. In another video, I discuss some guidelines for organizing your own IDL salons. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Back in the 1980s, when I was trying to figure out how to introduce interviewing to others, I thought that creating a game and presenting it as something light and fun would be the best approach. While that framing works with those with whom you already have an intimate relationship or with children, it's not effective in a party setting. That's because unless groundwork has been laid so that people expect both intimacy and power, they may end up feeling overwhelmed or embarrassed when and if they burst into tears. I did develop such game, but it was too intimate for a party context. It was also too complicated and clunky, and it never went into production. Years later, I developed a dream nightmare interviewing app for phones. However, the answers that people gave were too often their answers. They weren't taking the perspective of the interviewed character, so I dropped the app. You don't have to be a therapist to do IDL interviewing well, but you do have to be capable of dealing with intimacy, honesty, and the genuine expression of feelings. There are suggestions regarding this important topic in the video, What to Do If Your Subject Has a Meltdown, in the middle of an interview. If you feel you want or need to give an introduction to IDL interviewing to a subject or a group, I recommend you familiarize yourself with some of the introductory videos in this IDL curricula and then experiment. In general, I would propose that the most effective approach is to set up expectations that involve fun, curiosity and exploration, power, and intimacy. Don't hype the power aspect, but don't ignore it either. This is a fine line. You don't want to present IDL interviewing as more than it is, because some perspectives may not present as powerful at all. On the other hand, people can sometimes get caught off guard and blown away by the raw power of this or that interviewed perspective. Of course, some people are just not going to be interested in IDL interviewing. Perhaps they have other interests. Perhaps they are too busy or are not curious about their dreams or their interior realities. Perhaps they are too invested in drama to see the point in escaping it. Perhaps they want more control over their lives and see absolutely no point in having less. Sometimes people get what they need. No more nightmares, less anxiety, better, more intimate relationships, more self-confidence, and then lose interest in IDL. Whatever the reason, if people don't share your interest or enthusiasm, don't take it personally and don't get discouraged. Sing your own song, dance your own dance, and free others to do the same. In my experience, curiosity and exploration has been the golden mean, the driving interest that has kept me going over the years, with fun, power, and intimacy often unexpected dividends that I have often received throughout the journey. Check your own assumptions about the value and purpose of IDL interviewing. Lead by sharing what you have learned, how you have grown, how it has been helpful for you in your life. This approach lights a candle of hope within the minds and hearts of others and reflects an honest and genuine sharing that builds trust and intimacy as a foundation for any interview that you undertake. Thanks for watching. See you next time.